The Zoom screen. Yep. Oh, I see it now.
So you can see the app, yeah?
Yep.
So we add this, I built this in the beginning of COVID. Like I said, my bank's name is Access Bank. I built this for the bank. So, it was just, so you could just do a self-test. Obviously, you cannot predict if you have COVID, but, it can advise on what you should do. So I'll just show you a demo. So a self-test. So you could say, do you have cough? So you can say, oh, yeah, I have cough. So these are basically built on the COVID symptoms. Do you have cold? So you can say, okay. You can say no. Yeah. So, so these are built on some basic logics. Like scores has been assigned to different questions. So saying, are you experiencing fatigue? Say no. Do you have a recent travel history to COVID-19 affected areas? So, this was about 6-7 months ago. So if somebody were to say they just came into Nigeria from Italy, everybody would be very careful. So have you traveled recently in the last 14 days? A couple of questions. Do you have contact with somebody positive of COVID, etc.? So then you can just advise and say, seek a consultation with a doctor. So that's one part of the app. And then there's a dashboard. So if you can see, there's a logo coming up right now. So that's the Power BI logo. So this is a dashboard I designed to monitor. So it's a COVID-19 monitoring dashboard for Nigeria. But this has not been refreshing because, I just left the app about 6 months ago. I've not been refreshing the dashboard anymore. But this is also one of the things this is also one of the cool stuff you can do on PowerApps. You can integrate the 4 platforms together. So you can bring them together to work together, basically. So that's what I did here. I was able to integrate the Power BI to my PowerApps. So that's what we have here, And I also had the Meet the Bunker. So, exposing yourself to sun. We had a couple of Meet the Bunker. Eating ginger doesn't prevent contraction. So, in the beginning, I think in the early days of COVID, there were different news flying everywhere as regarding how you can prevent COVID and a couple of other things. So this was just my way of, correcting some things. Drinking alcohol does not protect you, etc. So I hope we got the gist of, some of the cool stuff you can do with PowerApps.
Hey, Mubarak, I was curious. It seems like the PowerApps design surface is always kind of like a mobile in size. Is PowerApps only for mobile, or can PowerApps be used for, like, let's say, a PC monitor?
Okay, so this app was designed for mobile, but you can design PowerApps for anything. So this was designed for a phone. So for example, these are some of the apps I've worked on in the past. And I think the only one that is mobile is COVID-19. The others are not. So I think, let me see if we can check this out. So this was supposed to be, a crisis communication application.
By the way, the COVID apps looks really nice, by the way. It's really pretty.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So this, as you can see, this is what do you call it? This is the tablet version or the PC version. So, you can do some cool stuff. You can do some cool stuff. I can stop sharing my screen now. Okay, so what we also have to know about the PowerApps is, we have 2 types of PowerApps. We have the Canvas app and we have the model-driven apps. So what I just showed you right now is an example of the Canvas app. And what's the Canvas app about? Think of Canvas as, arts, your canvas, a plain sheet where you can design on. So that's the way the Canvas app works. It's a plain sheet, and you can design your app to your own tastes. Basically, you can do whatever you like. So when you check my COVID app out, I was able to include whatever image I want. Basically, I did everything based on what I wanted. And that's what Canvas apps are about. But the model-driven apps are different. Model-driven apps have been pre-configured by Microsoft. So Microsoft has the way they want them to come out. So all you can actually do as a developer is to tweak them to tastes. You cannot really alter much, but you can tweak them to suit your own tastes, basically. So Dynamics 365 is a type of model-driven app. Letitia, did you get that?
Yes.
So Dynamics
I typed it. Sorry. Yes, I did.
Okay, so it's a type of model-driven app. So let me see if I can show you an example of what a model-driven app looks like. Okay. Okay. So this is an example of what a model-driven app looks like. So it's been pre-configured as regarding how it looks. So you can tweak a few things. You can rename some stuffs, but you can't do much. Unlike the Canvas app where you can manipulate things to your own tastes. So yeah. Okay. So that's the basics about Canvas, about PowerApps. Does anybody have a question as far as PowerApps is concerned?
Mubarak, I was curious. It sounds like model-driven app. It's more rigid. You're not painting on a canvas like Michelangelo.
Exactly.
When
So would you?
It's quite rigid.
Go ahead, Letitia.
So with the would you do that instead of putting the information in Power BI? Like I can see where the app creating that, and that gives you the information that you need. So then would you need to, would it be redundant to put it also and create a dashboard in Power BI? Or am I thinking?
Okay, so
am I going to?
So Letitia, to answer that question, when I move on to Power BI, which will be the next thing I'll be discussing, I'll definitely give you the perfect answer in graphic.
Okay.
Yeah. So that will be done.
Also, if you have 100,000 items, you're not going to go through 100,000 items in the list and review them. When you can see it all charted, it's just more meaningful.
Yes, please. So a minute, I'm sorry. I've been trying to. So I'm not sure what's happening. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. So next, let me just talk about Power BI. So the full meaning of Power BI is Power Business Intelligence. So similar to Power Apps, what Microsoft was trying to achieve with Power BI is to create, in the past, when people want to design dashboards, you have to bring in two sets of people. One has to be the business guys that understand the business and what the business needs to see, and then the developers, who are the IT guys that probably do not know what the business has to say. Well, So they have to work together to create the dashboards. Then you have to use the DJO and stuff. But right now, I think what Microsoft is trying to achieve with the Power BI is a way for the non-tech guys to design their own dashboards to test. So the business guys can design their own dashboard and have their own reports looking the way they want it to look. So I'll just share my screen now and show you some of the dashboards I've worked on in the past. And especially I'll show you a dashboard I worked on that has to do with the dynamics. So Tisha, that's for you. So you can see one of the things you can do. Okay. So I think I did this one. So this is a dashboard I did like about 2 days ago.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. Look at that.
That's awesome.
So it's supposed to, capture our complaints management to monitor our complaints in the bank. So, the trend you can see here, there's a trend of cases logged against the bank when people call into the bank to, log complaints about log different complaints, transaction errors, transaction failures, different things. And then the resolution rates. So you can see that cases logged more recently are less resolved as compared to cases in the past, which for obvious reasons. So we have a few other things. So how I was able to do this is by connecting my Power BI to my Dynamics, which, like I said earlier, is a model-driven Power Apps. So the best part of the Power Platform is that you can integrate them. So another cool stuff is, so I have a dashboard here, and I can share this with management. I can share this with, say, the head of customer experience in the bank. So as the head of customer experience, she knows how the bank is faring in terms of complaints logged in the bank. So one cool thing I can do here is now that I have this app, I can actually embed the same app. I can embed the same app. 1 minute. I can embed the same app in my Dynamics 365. So I can say, okay, so I don't have it yet, but there are ways to embed the app in your Dynamics 365. So people who use the Dynamics can easily see the app and make use of it when they need to use it. So you can just create a new dashboard. So you can create a new dashboard. And you can include whatever you need to include. So I really shouldn't go too deep into that. But basically you can integrate the Power Platforms together. So I'm not sure we should go too deep into Power BI and how to use it, but there are a lot of cool stuff you can do. Most of my boards are similar. Most of the boards I have here are similar because they're probably tracking the same thing. And I sort of created a template for how I want my dashboard to be for the bank. So most of my dashboards are similar, or they all look like the same template. Aside that, I do some other cool stuff. So I'll show you guys something I did. So I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. So around when he died, I got my hands on a couple of data sets. about his life, his games basically. And I add this, I created this. So this is the dashboard I created for Kobe Bryant about his career basically. So
Nice. You should sell that to the NBA, man.
so it's just telling some stories. You can see his best performing seasons based on points. So I think a lot of people used to say 2000 and 2003 was his best year, but the data disagrees.
Did you record your process of creating this?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Uh,
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. So, and so there's the best performing season based on points, and then we have the comparison of game played and game started. So most people know that he had a terrible injury in 2013, 2014, so he definitely wasn't playing much. And then at the beginning of his career, obviously, he wasn't starting a lot of games. But say from 98, it was already a big star then, and that was great for him. Then there's at the upper part here, you can see his free throw percent. So the free throw accuracy is like 83%. So if you give Kobe free throws, 100 free throws, he's going to score 83 of them, yeah. And we have the comparison of his total minutes played and the total points in the last 10 seasons. So obviously his 2013 was lowest for obvious reasons, the injuries and stuff. So total game played, total points, total minutes played, etc. And I had like a brief biography of stuff about him to the left-hand side. So yeah, that's that. Okay. So I think we understand a few things you can do. We can do with we can do Power BI now. Is there any question as regarding the possibilities with Power BI? I'll take that as a no and move on to the next thing. So I'll move on to Power Automate. So think of Power Automate as a way to automate, as the word implies, as a way to reduce repetitive tasks, as a way to get things done using a form of a bot, a form of a robot, basically. So, like I said, in the past, it was also called Flow. Now, it was called Flow in the past because, so for you to automate a process, you have to set out the flows. So, for example, the first part of the flow could be when I get an email from so email address, my boss. When I get an email from my boss, send me a text message. Send me a SMS saying, Mubarak, you have a text, you have an email from your boss. So there's a flow to that. There are different processes to it. The first thing that has to be done is my boss has to send me a mail. When my boss sends me a mail, that's a trigger. That's a trigger. So we call it a trigger on Power Automate. We call it a trigger. So that triggers some set of actions. So the action it triggers is to send a text message to my phone saying you have been sent a mail. So that's basically what flow is about. And that's some of the things Automate can do. But of course, it does a couple of other things. So an example of another thing you can do on Automate is, okay, an example of how Automate can be integrated to Power BI is, so a marketing company can, or a sales company can set up targets for themselves, and they can have a dashboard showing their targets and how far they've gone over the years. So they can set an automate there saying when we meet our targets, send an alert to the sales manager. saying, yes, we've met our targets. Or when we go below budgets or above budgets, send an alert to the salesperson that we've gone below budget or above budget, as the case may be. So that's what Automate does. It gets triggered by an action, it gets triggered by something, then it carries out an action. So a lot of times, a lot of processes we use on PowerApps are automated with Power Automate. A good example is I showed you guys some of the cases logged in my company, but not all of these cases were logged manually by the agents. Some of the cases were logged from customers' emails. So when a customer sends us emails about the complaints, the cases are automatically logged on the Dynamics. That's because there's an automate process there, or a flow process there, that's capturing every email going to a particular email address and logging a case for it on the Dynamics 365. So that's an example of how Power Automate work, basically. And last on the list is the Power Virtual Agents. So I mentioned earlier that the virtual agent is like a chatbot. So basically, it does what the chatbot does. Let me see if I can find one of my old chatbots. Hopefully, I still have it. So I don't fancy it so much. I know Microsoft is doing some work on it right now. I cannot even remember the link anymore. Okay. Okay, sign in.
Man, I can't keep up with all these products that Microsoft is just pumping out.
Yeah, so I was a bit overwhelmed some months ago. I was overwhelmed. I would not lie. At times I'm still overwhelmed. So my strategy basically is, I didn't have a trial. Oh, so it says my trial has expired. I'm surprised. So, like I said, I almost never use the virtual agents, but I do a few things on it, yeah, every now and then. So, like I said, it's a chat bot. So, but it's like the poorest of the platforms, if you ask me. So what they do, it's basically feeds on the automates. So for example, you can go to the chatbot and say, and you chat with the chatbot, you say "I bot" or something, and the bot replies you. The bot asks for your name and probably so when the bot asks for your name and probably your password or something, using the Active Directory, the bot can tell that you're a customer of the company. So what runs all those Active Directory at the back, is the automate process, is the Power Automates. So it replies you with your name and everything. And you can ask questions, you can do a couple of stuffs based on the automations behind the bots. So you cannot use Power Virtual Agents without being a professional on Power Automates. You cannot use Power Apps too well either if you're not a professional on Power Automates. However, Power BI is quite self-sustaining. So you do not need to know how to use other tools to use Power BI. For Power BI, you can just learn your stuff and you can be great at it. That's basically what the Power Platform is about. If you guys have any question about the Power Platforms, I'd like to have it, and I hope I can,
I do have one question. So virtual agent is code. It's not no code, right? So basically, it's kind of what the rest of Power Platform is. which you're able to kind of slap things together and kind of set up
Yes.
a succession of uh, I guess logic that's going
So
to eventually respond to some of the requests that the consumer
yes,
or the people are having.
yes. So it's low code. You almost never have to type any code. In the few
Yeah.
cases where you have to use code, the code looks more like Excel codes rather than proper coding. So it's not
Okay.
really, you know. For Power Apps, especially the Canvas Power Apps, that's a little bit more of code, but not serious coding, so to say, because the coding looks like Excel. If you're familiar with Excel, you can write most of the codes on Power Apps. So they are not you don't have to study a particular the language. You don't have to be very proficient in the language. Most of the time, you can copy something from the internet and use it. Like my COVID app, although I copied a few codes from the internet to do my COVID app, but nobody had done anything similar to that app. But I had a few logic from other applications people had created, and I just tweaked it to work on my own. So, but the codes are not, it's very low code. You don't have to use much code. So it's very low code.
Thank,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. On the other end, so Power BI is a bit different. Oh, fantastic! So you have a bot here. Fantastic. So okay. So this is how the bot looks like. This is one of the places where you customize the bots, how it's going to greet people, the various topics, the entities, and a couple of things here. I suppose you will not have any entity. Okay, so that's some entity for you. Okay, so these are the system-generated entities. They are pre-built. But few companies probably have some of the entities on the CDS, some other entities on the CDS. So if this was to belong to a proper organization, they probably have some of their own entities on their CDS that they can use to create the bots, basically.
One cool thing that I saw on the virtual agent is he has, I guess he has domain knowledge. So if you are in the healthcare industry, for example, and you select, let's say, healthcare, whatever, I think he kind of like is able to use natural language understanding to answer some of the questions or to have the conversation with the people. I thought that was interesting.
Okay, so for the natural language, yeah, natural language, as far back as so I've not used my virtual agent in months. And I heard from reliable source that Microsoft was working with one AI non-profit organization to improve their natural language processing. But what I can tell you is, say 6 months ago, Microsoft promised that their bots is fantastic with natural language, but I tell you, I don't agree with them. Most of the times you have to feed the bot a lot of key alternatives or key phrases. Most of the time, the natural language isn't so fantastic. I've seen regular data scientists build better natural language process. I don't think it's fantastic. But I know Microsoft is, working on something right now. I think it's done. And I suppose the work done, it's majorly for the virtual agents. So I know for a fact that soon the virtual agents will get really better. But for now, or say in the last 6 months ago, it wasn't fantastic. You hardly hear anybody talk about it. Even if you were to take one of the Microsoft certifications on Power Platforms, they hardly ask questions about it. I don't think they trust the app. They trust the platform itself too well, if you ask me. But then again, you can tell that I'm not a big fan. So that's about it. That's the overview of the Power Platform. With what you know now, you can come close to passing the Power Apps fundamental exam. Of course, you fail with this. You don't have enough knowledge, but trust me, you have the overview. You have the overview. You have the overview. So if there's any question, please feel free to ask. Albert, do you have any question?
I just want to ask you if you have any experience with the new release of PowerApps for Teams.
For Teams?
Correct.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. But what I can tell you, however, is the way PowerApps work, it really doesn't matter what you've used it with or what you've not, as long as you understand the process. So like I said, I've not worked with the PowerApps for Teams, but I understand the process of how it works, be it the Canvas app or the model-driven app. I suppose the one for Teams will be model-driven. The ones for Teams will be model-driven. So it's still the same process. If you understand the generic version, you probably can work with the one for Teams right now. I hope you understand me, Albert.
I do. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So is there any more question?
Hey, Mubarak, do you have any advice for us, for those of us who are migrating InfoPath applications to PowerApps?
Migrating infographs applications to PowerApps?
Yeah, any advice for best practices or anything like that?
So I'd say for me, the best advice is to take it easy.
Basically, you're saying start all over.
So it's take it easy. So my approach has always been to learn it two at a time.
Got it.
So I don't always go for 100, but I just go for say 70% for each tool. So when I started analytics, I started learning with SQL, and the moment I could write most of my scripts, I could query any database, I could do most of the things I need to do. And in some cases, more importantly, I knew how to search for help on the internet. Mm-hmm. So for me, most of the time, it's not really about being all able when it comes to some of these tools. I think the most important thing for you is to understand the general overview, so that at all time, even if there are things you cannot do yet, you understand what you want to do. You just do not know how to do it. So when you understand what you need to do, trust me, you will find help on the internet. If what you need is the process of how to do it, you will find help on the internet most of the time. Once you understand what you need to do, you will find help on the internet. So first and foremost, you need to understand the general overview of whatever tool you want to learn. You do not need to know all the technical details yet, but understanding the general overview helps you achieve 70% of your tasks all the time. I'd say that.
So if let's say I have a whole bunch of InfoPath applications that talk to SharePoint on-prem, would they be migrated to Canvas apps, or would they be migrated to well, I think you said model-driven apps. Is that what you called it?
Yes. So if you look into that, will obviously is going to be Canvas app and not model-driven, because model-driven are very selected. There are just a few of them. There are just a few of them. But Canvas app, you can do and undo. So obviously the infographs definitely is going to be Canvas app. And then again, what do you do with the infographs, please? Just a couple of designs, or what? I'd like to get clarification on that.
Yeah. So most often the customers use InfoPath because SharePoint is not robust enough. SharePoint doesn't really have, like, let's say, cascading fields, drop downs. SharePoint doesn't have input validation.
Yes.
It doesn't really have input translations. So we use InfoPath as more of a rich form that, and it essentially puts the data on the back end of a SharePoint. Out of curiosity, what are some use cases where we would say, okay, you need to create that as a Canvas app, and then what are some use cases where you would say, no, that should be a model-driven app?
Okay, so for model-driven apps, they are simple. It's the easiest to identify because Microsoft already curated them.
So they're usually like enterprise type of applications or something like that with enterprise data?
Exactly. They are more enterprise. So they've already been created. So examples include the Dynamics 365. Majorly Dynamics 365 is the king of all model-driven apps. So of course, we have different modules on the Dynamics 365. So there's the field module, there's the sales module, marketing module, customer service, finance and operation, like 1,001 of those. But nothing too crazy. Once you understand how to work with one, you probably can work with the rest. So that's.
I would also say your budget. Because once you go,
it's fantastic, your budget. So it's true. Sorry, I never get to pay for these apps in the bank, so I do not concern myself with the budget. Yes, the budget is important. At times, yeah, I will tell you. At times, it's probably better to create your own app than to use PowerApps when it comes to your budget. The only, I suppose, the major difference is with PowerApps. You can trust that your app is secured. So you don't have to spend extra money on security. You don't have to spend extra money on improving your servers, because it's Azure, obviously. So it's very scalable. If there's a time in the year when more people are going to use the application or something, Azure is very scalable, and your app is not going to break down or something. So though there are obviously advantages to using the PowerApps, a lot of them, but you have to consider your pricing. So yes, that's true.
Now, Mubarak, if an enterprise stores their data on Oracle, PeopleSoft, but they don't use Azure Dynamics model-driven data entities, does that mean you cannot use Dynamics anymore, or can Dynamics talk to other data stores?
Okay, so I'm a bit of a data engineer too. So like I said earlier, I mentioned something called data connectors. And I mentioned that the CDS or PowerApps as a whole can connect to over 300 different data sources. And Oracle is one of those sources. So yes, if you have some of your data on an Oracle database or something, you can migrate those data to the CDS. So in the bank, what we do here, what we have in my bank is this. So when we started the project, we created an SSIS package. That's a SQL Server Integration Service. Mm-hmm. So we created a package that was going to migrate our data from our Oracle DB, because our data warehouse is actually an Oracle database. So I was going to migrate our customer details from the Oracle DB and move it to the CDS for our model-driven app, for our Dynamics. So, we need a bulk upload. So that's what you call the bulk upload. So basically uploaded bulk. Then we also have a Delta process. So what our Delta process does is we have another exercise package that is going to run maybe every night. And it's going to migrate the newly created customers. So my bank is one of the biggest banks in terms of customer base. We are the biggest in Africa. So we have about 35 million customers. Also, we have the biggest Dynamics cloud platform in the world. So our Dynamics, the one I just showed you now, this one is the biggest in the world. Where is it? So this one you can see. So we have the biggest Dynamics in the world. We've exhausted our. I don't think Microsoft at time built something. I don't think they were expecting anybody to be this big. Of course, it's Azure, so it can take it. but we've gone above the capacity, the data capacity over and over again. So this is the biggest in the world. This is the biggest dynamics anybody has done. 35 million customers
Wow, that's impressive.
here. So I was one of the team that did the data migration. So, it was crazy work because, the exercise package is just built to fail. They are not strong enough to migrate 35 million. So, it was a good learning experience for me. So that's one of the stuff we do. So definitely, it doesn't matter where your data source is, you can always bring it to the CDS and do a wonderful job with it. Is there any other question?
Mubarak, I really feel that this has been more than just a technical presentation. I mean, you were interactive, you were very warm. You're just full of energy and excitement, and you're working with some highly technical stuff with the dynamics for the PowerApps, and the scale of data is just incredible. For you to be handling this is just a really incredible accomplishment. And then to top this off with a cherry on top, you told us about Lagos and then even the suburbs outside Lagos, and just we kind of got a chance to learn what a wonderful country Nigeria is. I'm definitely going to come visit you for sure.
Fantastic. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. So I'll show you something. The video you shared, there was this art gallery in the video. I don't know if you noticed. So it's the biggest art gallery in Africa, I think.
Yep.
So it's in Lagos. So it's called Nikki Art Gallery. So it's a fantastic place. I visited there. I was there I think in January. I'll just show you pictures. I was there with some.
All right.
I was there with some friends. So this is the gallery.
Oh.
So this is one of my friends from Gambia. This is myself. So this is a native wear. This is one of our native wears. Oh, also there was this picture. I don't know if you check the video again, you might see some of this stuff. So this is somewhere we call Lekki Conservation Center. And this is a suspended walkway. I think it's the longest one in Africa or West Africa. I don't know. So some of the cool places to visit. And so this is my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend actually. So
Tell me about the significance of this gallery. Do you run this gallery, or is this a place that you like going to?
So I told you I was into painting, so I paint myself. But obviously I'm an amateur, so I'm not at this level yet. But it's one of the places I go to get inspiration.
Oh yeah.
It's always fantastic to see the work of better artists or more trained artists. It inspires you. So I go there a lot. It's one of my ways of having fun for me. It's a very big gallery. I think it's on about 5 floors.
Wow, there's so many floors there.
Yeah, so there are paintings everywhere. I think.
Now,
so
have you heard of a Nigerian artist named Kareem Waris?
Yes. My favorite painter. Let me show you. My favorite painter is called Tolu Aliki. So this is my favorite painter. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
So he has a particular signature you can obviously see the signature. So, he has his own signature. You can totally see his work. When you see his work, you totally know it's Tolu. So,
These are beautiful.
it's beautiful. So you know, this Nick, if you're in Nigeria, this is definitely one of the places to visit. I've not been here in the 8 months. I've not been here since January, but I'll be going back this weekend or next weekend. I'd like to have a visit again. You know, I've not been painting for the last 2 months, or a month. I've not been painting for about a month now. So when I go here, I definitely know when I come back, I'll be back to painting.
What are you doing? Acrylic or oil or what?
So I draw acrylic.
Okay.
Now I paint with acrylic. I also paint with poster colors. Majorly poster colors for my low budget painting when I'm just trying to try something out.
Okay. Now, are you brave enough to walk across that suspension bridge? Because I would not be brave enough to.
Oh yeah, I'm not scared of heights. Yeah. So yeah, I did this. So I you know I don't have a problem with it.
Hey Mubarak, maybe you can use Power Automate to make it to actually paint some stuff without you having to do it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's intelligent enough. We'd have to improve the data science behind it. We definitely have to improve the data science behind it. But then again, you know, it's machine learning. You can teach the computer. So you know, there are 3D models that create things out based on trainings. So who says you cannot teach the computer how to paint? So yeah, so that's it. That's basically about it. This is my bank. Okay. So this is my bank. This is where I work. So it's called Access Bank.